He that loveth not his brother, death begins to abide in him. That's all you have to do is stop loving. You don't even have to go further than that, get angry. You don't have to go further than that, and hate him. Just stop loving, and that cuts off the flow. You see, we cannot walk in light unless we walk in love. Love and light are twins. They must go together. He that loveth not, liveth not, because he abides in death. Love and light and life, then, must three. They're triplets. They must three always go together. We cannot have love and not light. We cannot have light and not love. We cannot have light and not light and love, and at the same time hate. You can't do that. We can't hate my brother and love God. He says, no, that's impossible. He said, how can I love God whom I'm not seen when I can't love my brother whom I have seen? John goes on and asks this. You'll find much about human relationship in the book of John. We have to love. In other words, if you and I are friends, but I hate your kids, we're not going to be friends very long, are we? No way. I mean, you treat my kids right or you're not my friend. Is that right? That's pretty well unanimous, isn't it? And if we don't love God's kids, we don't love God. You see what I mean? He says, you love my kids, you love my children, or you don't love me. It's just that simple. Now, as I said before, we're vulnerable. We hurt easily. But we heal well. We can heal real well. Even the severe wounds, even an operation, give it a year and everything's all fine. Every nerve is back in place, and every vessel's back in place, and every cell's back in place. You're just as strong as ever and go out and do the same job you're doing before. You heal up superficially in just a few days. In a few days you can have a severe operation and be up on your feet. And within a month you're feeling pretty good. Within 2 months you're ready to go to work. And it's fully restored within a year. That's God's mercy. That's God has established tremendous healing powers in our physical body. But that is true also in our soul nature, in our ego, because that's what gets hurt is our ego, you know. That too is restorative. It has powers to restore. Little by little we forget. You can have a severe quarrel with somebody today, and a month later you couldn't tell what you quarreled about. We forget it. And God will heal it. But here's what happens so often. Infection. Oh, that's another question. If I hurt myself, scratch, even just a small scratch, no problem at all, unless infection gets in. Then we have to deal with it, don't we? We start sterilizing, we start antiseptic, we start putting on some medicines, even to go to antibiotics. In older days, before we had some of our modern medicine, just a scratch could be death. If infection got in, when I was a boy, I know people that would just tear off a hangnail, an infection get in, and before they get it stopped, they'd be dead. It was that severe. Of course, now we found out people didn't have a good immune system or whatever it was. Now we know how to deal with things. So as soon as something gets infected, what do? We run to do something about it, don't we? It isn't the hurt really that does the damage. It's the infection that does the damage. A hurt will heal right up. Infection won't. Unless it's dealt with, it will take an arm or take a leg or take a life. The same is true in the world, in the spirit. If we let infection get in, the first thing we get infected with is self-pity. That's a baddie. That's a lot worse than you think it is. It gets in and it starts to working. It starts to working. You know, if he loved me, he wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have said that. And they hurt me. I don't know. I didn't deserve that, and I didn't do anything to that. I don't know why you said that. I think he's been a hypocrite all the time. He said he loved me, but he doesn't really. And that thing just works and works and works and works. And pretty soon we're resentful. Pretty soon we don't want to get around that person at all. And if we don't get at that infection, it'll get worse and worse. And it will turn. It'll become resentment. And that's more serious. And if we don't deal with it, it'll become bitterness. And sometimes it can lodge in there for a long time. But as long as that infection's there, love has stopped. Love has stopped. We cut the flower. And death abides. Death abides. And many times it'll take a long time to realize I can't pray like I used to. I can't praise like I used to. I can't worship like I used to. I try and I do my best and I come to church and I sing the song, but it's just not the same. I remember a very severe lesson I got with that years ago. We were given the right foot of fellowship and kicked out of our church organization. And we were very polite. We were very Christian. We never answered anything wrong. They said a lot of nasty things. They wrote letters that were outright lies. I saw them. We were very nice. But I didn't love. No way. But I didn't say anything. But after a couple of months, I began to notice it was getting harder to get the anointing. And after 6 months, it was a lot harder. And I began to get real worried. And I'd try fasting and praying for the anointing to come back, and it wouldn't. And after about a year, I got very, very concerned. I really sought the Lord. And he took me to this verse, 1 John 3:14. He that loveth not, that's all. You don't have to go any further than that. He that loveth not abides in death. And God said, you stop loving. And that's the truth. I did. They weren't my friends anymore. No way. Oh, they didn't want me for a friend. Well, that's all right. They can push me out of their friendship, but it's not for me to push them out of my friendship. You know what I mean? No way. So I had to write a letter and apologize and ask their forgiveness and tell them that it was my fault anyway, because if I had really loved them as I should, they wouldn't have been so angry. They wouldn't have rejected the revival, because that's what happened. And I said, oh God, if I write that letter, they'll say, see, we were right all the time. I said, they'll use it as a weapon. No matter. I had to write the letters. So I wrote the letters. And right away the anointing came back. Right away the flow began again. It started. And you know, strange enough, they didn't use those letters as weapons, but we became friends later. We even had some of them ministering for me later. You see, we can't afford it. That's what he was saying. You've lost fellowship. You've lost your joy. You're out of light. Why? Human relationship is the problem.